Hello, y'all. My name is Lucas Zhao, and I'm Chinese American. And the reason that I am making this video right now is because I was born in the United States of America in Metro Detroit, that's in Michigan, in the Midwest, for anybody that's curious. And for as long as I remember, even till today, I have yet to see myself represented in all facets of the world the same way that Eurocentric colonial type, people portray themselves and have asserted themselves into this collective mythological sphere. And the reason, so I have a following a little bit on Instagram and Facebook and all that good stuff with my photography and my graphic design and sort of the visual culture in which I've curated and sort of channeled through myself and my experiences and my ancestors. But, I've been seeing some people gain an extraordinary amount of traction through YouTube and video platforms in which they're speaking what needs to be spoken, a greater truth, if you will. And the reason that I personally feel drawn to make this video right now is because I am Chinese American, right? And when I, navigate this world, this sphere, this continent, particularly the United States of America, the one that you're probably familiar with, the one that was stolen from the native people, we'll say 200, 300 years ago, who are still around today, in fact, and resemble more Asiatic DNA and linguistic roots in terms of linguistic trees of diversity and migration than any type of genetic connection to Anglo-Saxon, Caucasia, white people. So we'll continue that. And I get asked a lot, what am I? And I feel that people are so hesitant on saying Chinese American. And I'm going to break that down furthermore in other videos, or maybe in this one at another part, sort of how China as a nationalistic identity is something that is an illusion, a modern nationalistic illusion that is imposed by a Eurocentric, colonial and imperialistic sphere of a sedentary lifestyle that is militaristically imposed upon the individuals that are subject to its rule, the ruling class. And I feel that, with these words, it sort of defines the landscape of which I will be speaking upon and which I will be deciphering for you, my lovely people that are watching this for any reason. And I hope this is recording right now because I'm recording this on my iPhone. These cameras are crazy now. But y'all. So basically, a really big part of this is the fact that people hesitate to identify or label myself, accept myself culturally as a Chinese American. With the, and with all of my markings and my tattoos and the way that I speak and carry myself, it's interesting to me because the prefix of alternative before Asian American sort of discerns these terms in this way that Asian is connotated with small, silent, docile people that are awkward and oftentimes completely disconnected to any hunter human integrative instincts. And this is something that has been, a Eurocentric lie, like, it has all been in some sense from Egypt to all of Africa to all of Asia in terms of, where these cultures, where wisdom, where the truth really comes from. And the reason I want to make this is because I don't want to be seen as alternative anymore. I just want to be Asian American. I just want to be human. But I know that, and I can understand in my experiences, in my 28 years of experiences, being a citizen of the United States of America, that is not enough just to be human. We're all put into these boxes, whether we agree with them or not. And because of this interjects us into a revolution, a movement, if you will, collectively, that we are each individually connected to larger collective bodies of these identities and these ideas in which one is, placed and labeled within. And I want to break these down furthermore in other videos as well, because that's really interesting and fascinating how in the United States of America, the lumps of these racial identities, although very ignorant, bring people together in a way that I have yet to experience in a less oppressive political atmosphere, we'll say. Yeah, so, and I really want to, make this video. And the thing is that it's interesting to me because, our people from Eastern Asia are truly a very, we'll say, inwardly focused people in terms of family, honor, hard work, the Tao, all of these practices that really focus and centralize upon internal transformation reflected externally, with a lot of concepts of destiny as well involved. And I would argue to say that this is all connected to an Africa diaspora from ancient wisdom of Egypt. And I would even go furthermore to say, in my personal theories, these new hominids that are being discovered in modern-day Siberia, the Denisovan people, as opposed to the Neanderthal, which are on the European side of Eurasia, are both two separate hominid species in which are precursors to the Homo sapiens sapien that you and I, are today, so to speak. And, perhaps that maybe we all come from ancient races, ancient intelligence, ancient wisdom, beyond our wildest imaginations, which are truly stored within our DNA. And, I'm going to make the next video that I will make will talk a bit about markings and tattoos and sort of how these symbols and these markings that any indigenous culture or peoples to a land would take on the symbols of, in which modify not only their experience but their connection and their powers to that land that their DNA had evolved to be congruent or parallel with. So yeah, it's a lot to dive into, and it's really interesting because the more that we fragment and deconstruct the ways that we think and the way that we perceive and our instinctual realities within this collective dimension of the United States of America of sociology, anthropology, language, linguistics, conversation, there's so much, to really explore and to really examine, especially not from the Eurocentric, hyper-Westernized mind. And furthermore, even with that, I love that word right now, furthermore, because it's, further and more. But basically, how through that hyper-Westernized mind, everything in reality has become very dominance-based and very segregated. And I don't want to over-romanticize the East as opposed to the West, or the West as opposed to the East, because they both need one another, and it is the polarities. And you cannot destroy one without destroying the other. You cannot praise one without praising the other, because it is the same. So, in some sense, in the sense that it is objectively one thing that is, perceived and subjectively extrapolated on two sides or more, and polarity. It's interesting to me because it blows my mind, because I myself personally, I lived on the road for 5 years out of a van, and I didn't intentionally do that to pursue van life. It was more so, I was very passionate about photography. I didn't even know what I was doing after high school. And a camera, it not only gave me something to do, but it saved my life. It saved my identity, and it gave me a passion in this world that allowed me to really put myself out there in a way that I could be proud of and I could feel happy from. Beyond happy, something that our offering, our service, that gift, that passion that we share with the world. And, eventually years and years and years of, pursuing that, not as a career by any sense, but a path of artistic expression. And I didn't consider myself an artist back in the day, but just, somebody that was doing what I needed to do to survive. And photography eventually led me to living on the road. And I didn't expect to do van life. It was just sort of this way for me to be at the right place at the right time. I'd never seen the mountains, I'd never seen the ocean, Pacific Ocean, prior to really 5 years ago, not including, maybe when I was 6 or 7 with my familia. But it's interesting to me. So I feel that, for myself personally, I channel a lot of the indigenous, the First Nation people of this land, the tribes of Turtle Island. And the reason that that is important because, there's a lot of things, but I definitely feel that there is not only a linguistic, but a genetic connection there of Asiatic origin to this land. I don't want to be alternative anymore. I don't want to be the alternative Chinese American. I want for us Asians all around the world, particularly here in the United States of America, to reclaim and to resurrect our identity, our own personal participation in the creation and the sculpting of our archetype in not only this world, but in everything that we touch, and our self-identity first and foremost. And the reason that one of the things that's most interesting to me is that because I am Asian American, particularly Chinese, that people oftentimes, I can see the cognitive dissonance and the cognitive biases that are immediately triggered and activated when I am Chinese American, carrying these markings and carrying myself in a way that is not submissive to any man, particularly the white man. You know what I'm talking about. Anybody who's watching this knows what I'm talking about. It's a very hot topic right now. And the reason that I feel so drawn to make these videos is because, as I grew up in the Midwest, 28 years old now, born in 1992, I saw nothing that represented me truly as all I could be and who I am, who my people are, And there was definitely always this connotation, this implication that, model minority, Eastern Asian, lighter skin, that we are able to somehow attain the experience, the privileges of whiteness within this country. And that's something that is also very interesting because there was the whole Chinese Exclusion Act of 1882, which is the only act within, I think, the history of any country, but particularly this country, that segregated and isolated an entire race, nationality, ethnic group of people, and discriminated against them from coming into the United States of America. And to expand on that, the privilege and the only reason that I was able to be born here in the United States of America and have access to not only the resources of education, but communication and identity perception, refinement, is because my parents were studying as students here within the United States of America back in the late 1980s. And they were here during the Tiananmen Square massacre. And after that, I believe the United States granted asylum to 25,000, I think, or 50,000 Chinese people that were studying or going to school here at the time. My parents were two of those people. And because of that, my sister and I were born here in the United States of America under the privileges of being a citizen. So many of my people from China originally wouldn't, I feel like, have dreams of being able to be and experience themselves in this way, but this is simply, the first. It's a raindrop. It's the first drops of a torrential downpour, the hurricane that will change the world. And, I am very fond of thunder and storms and hurricanes and forces of nature, particularly going with the Lakota people and the indigenous, the First Nations. So I digress. This is so much information to really bring all together. And I guess that's one of the things that I've been struggling with the most is that I know people have a lot to talk about, but I feel like I too have so much to talk about. And because of that, it's really challenging for me to isolate all of these conversations that are constantly ongoing within my mind and reflected externally as well into a cohesive story and a cohesive journey as well culturally with people like myself. So, hey guys, so yeah, basically, I'm gonna try this again. So, I'm Chinese American, and basically, there's so many things that, it's such a weighted identity in this country. And one of the things that I see the most within my people, Asian Americans, is that there is a deep-rooted, such a indescribable shame and pain within our own identities, and the fact that our diaspora has been whitewashed and Eurocentrically taken advantage of and exploited and mined, just like every other identity, just like the Hispanic people, which we call Hispanic, but actually have our Spanish mixed with indigenous people of this soil. You know, the Moshika, the Yaqui Indians, the Native Americans, even calling them Indians is a spit in their face to who they truly are. They were the original humans of this hemisphere, and you know, they were exploited, mined, exterminated. The genocide is ongoing. And you know, the reason that I feel so drawn to speak upon this is because, you know, we are silently out of place, and we as Asian Americans particularly that fall under the model minority mindset have this lie, have this dream that is conditioned within to us, because we have nothing better to go to. Our country was not only communist, but destroyed and exterminated its own people and resources in order to keep that power. So we have a homeland, but in terms of identity and all of these, China, even though China is a remnant of the Qing dynasty, which was dismantled through the Opium Wars, which was opium introduced to China, which was banned through European, I'm pretty sure it's French and Britain at the time. This was the original crack epidemic of the CIA, was in Eastern Asia with my people. So this is what I'm talking about, you know, is that there's this very deep gap and wound within you know, our collective identity. And I feel this so much as I rise into my full power. And the reason that I see this and feel this pain within my people is that, you know, I always sense this level of untapped potential within all of our pain, within all of our struggles, within everything about us that we refuse to accept or even acknowledge. It's so challenging because within the model minority myth, you know, we're set up in this place intentionally, I feel, to also segregate and divert us away from being people of color and collectively feeling the struggle of our brothers and sisters. And just like how, you know, the European people did to the natives with blood quantums, by separating and fractionalizing their blood quantum to indigenous connection to this soil, they fragmented and fractured their own indigenous peoples as well on the reservation based off of tribes and everything of this nature. And I'm sure a lot of my native friends will attest to this as well. So it's interesting to me, all of these things. You know, and I feel that within this model minority mindset, there's this lie that's told to us that if we play by the white man's rules, that we will attain whiteness within this sphere of dominance, of Eurocentric colonial dominance. And I feel that it's very interesting to me because I've seen not only in my life, but within my mother and within, you know, my family and the families around me, that there is a deeper system of thinking that I will go into, I'm sure, in the future. But there's a very deep wound, or I don't even know what to call it, within the Eurocentric man, within the white man. And it is man to object relationship, as opposed to man, as opposed to man to community. It is man to object. So anything that isn't itself is objectified. And because of this, there is a deep trauma and misunderstanding between the navigational basis and the contract, the social anthropological contracts in which we as humans navigate upon. And this is seen as well within the desecration of the treaty rights and the way that the native peoples were exterminated and stolen from their land based off of the promises and the truths that they were lied to and signed onto by the white man. And yeah, it's so exciting to talk about all these things right now, because this is the first time that I feel like, you know, collectively, especially within this country, we're prepared to talk about these things. And those that aren't prepared to talk about it, it's all good, because, you know, this is more for my people than anything else. And because I see the struggle, and I see you and I see me, and there's only one thing that's going to, you know, bring us to the goal, bring us to fruition on this journey, and that is to work together and to deconstruct and to decolonize ourselves from these mentalities that have been so perpetuated in its traumatization and the karmic patterning and conditioning of those traumas. Yeah, so that's that, you know. All right, yeah, and if you really want to get into it, as somebody who has traveled internationally, primarily in Latin American countries, which Latin is very interesting as the language of Rome in Italy. So to refer to Latin America, Hispanic people aka half indigenous, half Spanish people, as Latin American, is some linguistic fuckery that is a lie, that it perpetuates some type of amnesia, I feel, in some sense. But as an individual, as you know, I digress, as I do, as an individual who's spent time primarily in Latin American countries, it's very interesting to see how I believe that Asian culture, particularly Eastern Asia, has a very deep and almost mysterious common ancestral link to Latin America, North and South America, you know, the colonized hemisphere. And we can see this within the culture of the Incas to the Mexica, aka the Aztec, the Mayans, particularly the Mayans, and the Olmecs, which look more black or African than anything else, which is interesting. And the Apache people, which also speak Athabascan, which to my knowledge is the same language as the Inuit people, as well as the same language to a unique ethnic group of Asian appearing people in modern day Siberia. So it is very interesting to see how, you know, we all share some type of truth deeper down, particularly with the people of this soil, the original people of this soil, not Europeans. And it's interesting to me because as somebody who's traveled and seen and felt and experienced these connections, it's very interesting and fascinating for me to see people that I feel are my common ancestors as well being locked into cages because their names and their identities have been rewritten for the modern generation, calling them Mexican Hispanic people, when they are in fact the indigenous people mixed with colonial blood, mixed with the Spanish. And you know, you go to Hispanic countries and it's interesting because, you know, Spanish-speaking people from Spain and Hispanic people, there is a night and day divide and difference. And I myself personally feel so much of a reckoning with the indigenous peoples or the Hispanics in my life and experiences. And it's interesting to me. And I feel that, you know, it's important for us as Asian Americans to really understand who we are and understand who we're learning from and the circle that which we carry into which we learn from, because there's so much to learn from our brothers and sisters, the family that we have truly within Africa, within North and South America, the indigenous people, the Native Americans, the First Nations, to Hispanic people. You know, it's insane, like how much wisdom we all carry and medicine we share for each other in this way. And I know that for myself as an Asian American, like I said at the beginning of this video, that grew up in the United States of America, particularly the Midwest in the 90s, without any representation or identity or mold archetype in which I felt like I could truly aspire to be like in this world. I have drawn so much inspiration from Black people, Black culture, African culture, Mexican culture, you know, Latin American, Peruvian, Incan, Aztec, Colombia, Brazilian, I'm trying to think of what else, Hawaiian, Polynesian, right? All of these, everything that we can really think about is here available for us to learn from, not exploit. And that's something that I feel like I should be clear about as well, is that there is a very important respect that we must carry ourselves with, and we must understand within our own DNA, within our own intelligence and our own intuitive wisdom, because we carry and channel something that is so ancient and so powerful and so important that if we do not respect it and if we do not honor it within ourselves, it will be exploited and it will continue more exploitation, just like the white man has done to this entire planet. And how there is no such thing as white people. White is an identity, is an amnesia that is so deep that it has become its own demise. And yeah, so, there's a lot to unpack, and I'm very excited to unpack, my experiences with all of you, because I want all of my people to be equipped with the same understanding and some respect and the same coherency that I have uncovered and have been supported to harness through people of all colors, ages, backgrounds. Because we are in a war. And anybody who says that we're not is so privileged that they don't see it. And they don't have to experience it. They have nothing to lose by denying the war. So, I want to say, and maybe end this video on this note, that for my people, anybody who's watching this and anybody who's gotten this far, I see you and I love you, and your journey is so valid. Your story is so valid. You're so fucking powerful. And if you don't see it in yourself, there's something in you that does. And if that is reflected to you through me right now, then so be it. Because your story, your journey is so important, and your ancestors are guiding you and loving you so much every step of the way. And I want to end this on that note, that no matter where we come from, we all are coming from love and going to love. So no matter what, let's not forget that Black Lives Matter, and that we need each other. We truly need each other. So be good to yourself, because that's the only way we will truly be able to clearly see and reflect and enjoy one another. Okay, that's all right. That's all right.